Today we're turning trash into treasure by making this cardboard box into a magical treasure chest. Stay tuned. Greetings adventurers and welcome to Skill Tree, where we learn how to do just about everything. Welcome to the maiden voyage of our brand new space. It's so exciting. Though it is not right yet. Oh, there's like an echo in here and stuff. Y'all moving sucks. There's like a billion things everywhere and you're just trying to find a place for it. It's real hard. Because of that, while trying to figure out what to make for a video, all of my materials were everywhere. But the one thing I had a lot of, boxes. I have boxes for days. Y'all, so many boxes. So I decided let's have some fun with them and try to make something fancy. So that's today's episode. We're taking an old used box and turning it into a treasure chest. Before we get into it, make sure you stick to the end to see who won our brandy wine contest. All right, without much further ado, let's jump right into it. So the first thing you're gonna need for this box project is a box, obviously. I was lucky enough to have this Wen box here, which like a tool came in, so it's a pretty sturdy little box. Although we're gonna do so much to this that it doesn't have to be this sturdy, it's just providing the shape and kind of the framework to go with it. First things first though, I did want to make this one solid thing, so I went ahead and taped up all of those openings with some good Gorilla Tape. Now, if we want this to look like a treasure chest of some sort, we need a way to like open the top, right? So to make this happen, I chose kind of an arbitrary measurement that I thought looked good, about 2.5 inches down, and marked it all around the box. Then I used my ruler to connect those marks, giving me nice straight lines all the way around. Finally, I used a razor knife to carefully cut my lines, freeing the lid from the rest of everything. And you can kind of see what we're going for here. It's a little box with a lid. All right, just so it's not too jarring, it was at this point that everything else had been moved to the new space, so the camera and everything went as well. So behold, new space. As I'm showing off the next ingredient, which is this architectural foam here. You can get this from any of the big box stores like Lowe's, Home Depot, and it's basically what's used for like insulation. It's just a really nice rigid foam to work from. And it's actually what my little stone things in the back here are made from too. The one I have here is a 1/2 inch just because that's the smallest they had at my local store, but I think it comes smaller too, and I would probably prefer it be a little bit smaller. Okay, so the general idea is to cover the whole outside of the box in this foam. To do that, I just use the box itself as my measurement device, and then try to make nice straight cuts exactly the footprint of the box. We want this thing to sit exact. In order to connect them together, I'm actually just using some of this low temperature hot glue. I think this stuff can withstand the higher temperature stuff, but I was afraid of it melting. But if you want to go with the lower temperature hot glue, you just gotta make sure you have a gun that has the lower temperature setting. I got this one from Michael's for like $12. They're real cheap. Anywho, all I did was smear the hot glue all over my board and then carefully put my box into place so it was perfect on every edge. Then just to give it some extra hold, I went around the edges as well. Now, I'm not gonna bore you with the rest of it. I just did the exact same thing, sticking all the sides on, making sure every surface was covered in the body as well as the lid. I also wanted to get rid of this open space where the wings of the box do not meet. So I just cut out a piece of cardboard that would fit right into that space and hot glued that into place as well. And with that, we have box. Now, could you have put this all together by just kind of gluing the edges together and stuff and make it just out of the foam? Yes, you can, but then you're just relying on the glue on those edges, and that's not going to be as strong as this entire thing is now glued to this cardboard inside box. So you just got a lot more surface area to secure it and keep everything rigid. Now from here, you can skip right to the decoration if you don't really care about the inside as much, but I didn't like this corrugation showing around the edges. So to take care of that, I just had some of this 2mm EVA foam that I cut into strips, and then using hot glue in a really thin layer, stuck it all along those edges. I like to leave it a little bit long and then cut it afterwards so I know that everything lands exactly without me trying to fit it in perfectly. Then, because I had the time and, I don't know, I hate myself, I guess, I added it to all of the rest of the insides as well. And though it looks really cool, I do realize right now, kind of watching it on the screen off to the side here, it looks just like a cooler. And you know what? I think it would behave like a cooler too. It's got R value, right? I think it would work. Should rebrand this thing as like Treasure Chest Cooler. Might have missed a marketing opportunity here. Now, when you're doing anything with foam, if you do see little gaps like this around the edges, all you need is this quick seal stuff from DAP. Using this, we can just kind of caulk those little spaces and then use a wet finger to smooth them right out. Afterwards, you don't even see them. They look perfect. Okay, so now that we have this thing all constructed, here comes the fun part. This is where we make it look like a wooden treasure chest. Now you can use whatever measurements you want, but I thought since the lid had a very specific kind of sizing to it, it would look cool if that sizing continued, so I just used the lid as my measurement device. And you can see I dug the tip of my pen in it to make that line. And this is why I chose to use foam for this project, because it has a really cool property. Basically, now if I hit this with a heat gun, that line I made starts to open up as the foam melts a little bit. You want to move the heat gun kind of quickly. If you let it linger for too long, it's gonna melt more like a hole. But yeah, it makes a really cool effect. Again, that's how I did these back walls here to make them look like stone. I just kind of cut them, hit them with the heat gun, and those cracks all opened up. Now to really sell that wood look, we need some fine grain lines. If you have like a metal brush, a wire brush or whatever, that works great. I couldn't find mine because I'm still unpacking. So instead I used this 40 grit sandpaper. Just really lightly dragging it across the front, digging in some lines. I even did little half circles on the edges of the board because that's how a grain would go, right? Little circles at the edges of the board. This way, when I hit it with my heat gun, those little lines open up a lot more and really start to sell that look. It's hard to tell with the board being green here, but once we slap some paint onto it, you're gonna see it looks awesome. Though before we wanna paint this thing, it is foam, and foam really likes to drink up paint. So I grabbed some of this Mod Podge here and paint this all over the surface. This stuff's awesome, it dries clear, and it's gonna go ahead and seal up that foam so we can paint it. Now, I've seen people do this reverse. They like to start with lighter colors and then they build their dark onto it. I prefer to start with my darkest color, which in this case is gonna be a black, which I paint all over the chest, inside and out, really making sure I get into all the little nooks and crannies. And look at that. Already, that looks awesome. It looks just kind of like charred wood. The heat gun really sells the grain. I love that look. All right, so next I'm gonna be adding some kind of wood coloring to this by bringing in some burnt sienna. I'm also applying this with this stiff bristled brush here to really give like grain pattern. And I'm just dry brushing this on to give me a lot of control and really let some of that black show through. To do this, I just use a sacrificial piece of foam and dab the brush before I start painting. If there's any areas I thought that was too much, I bring in some paper towel and just remove some of that. It's not gonna hurt anything. Next, I just decided to get some basic brown and do exactly the same thing. Just adding a little bit of variation, toning down that look. Also, it's hard to pick out in the video, but I'm trying to go along with like grain patterns. So when I used the sandpaper, I didn't just go straight. I kind of would like wave every once in a while or whatever. And I tried to follow that pattern with my brush just to make everything go in the same direction. And with just those three colors, look at how cool that is. I think that looks like old wood. Like that to me really sells it. To add just a little bit of extra pop to it, I added some white, really dry brushing it on lightly just for some highlights. Now, I had it in my head that this is like the lost chest of some kind of regal like bloodline or something, right? So with that in mind, I just decided to paint the whole inside of it this royal purple. Finally, to really sell that this is like an old box put together in an old-fashioned-y way, I grabbed some of these cut tacks, which really look like those kind of hand-forged nails from back in the day. And because everything's foam, you can just kind of push them in wherever you want them. Cool, so we have two parts of a box that look like it's made out of wood. Let's combine these together so we have a lid that can open and close. To do this, I'm just using real hinges. These are just cabinet hinges that I add a little bit of super glue to and then position into place exactly where I think they should go. And then I use the screws that came with them to actually screw them into place as well. You don't want to rely on just the screws, though this is like an architectural foam and I tested it on a little bit and it does hold okay. I think over time they're just going to rip out. By using the glue over the entire hinge, it spreads out that force and makes it so that it's not gonna just rip itself to pieces. Though, I definitely didn't want it to just randomly like flop open, right? We don't want this thing to fly open because that's gonna get a lot of force in this direction, which is gonna rip those things out. So to stop that from happening, I actually just cut these little strips of leather here and added these nice round upholstery tacks to them. Now by just putting these inside of the lid, it stops it from opening any further and thus won't rip anything out. Plus, I just think it looks kind of cool. Now from here, I wanted to add some sort of banding or whatever, but this is where Maddie actually jumped in and was like, that thing's cute as hell, I want to play with it now. And because I did have a lot of other stuff I was doing, I said go for it. So here's what Maddie did after the fact. First, she went ahead and measured around the top of the box so that she can cut these strips out of EVA foam and just kind of lay everything together to get a feel for how much she wanted like different hardware and stuff to look. We had a whole bunch of these little tiny corner guards and stuff for books and whatever, buckles, buttons, just everything under the sun that she was actually organizing at the time. So she's like, I'll just grab some of these. For the EVA strip, she did exactly what we did with the other stuff by running the wire brush, which she found along it to give it that grain pattern, and then using the heat gun to open up the grain. Then of course she layered on paint to make it look like wood. These she hot glued all around the sides and edges to make this really cool banding design. Then to add extra depth to that banding, she used a black wash, which is just black paint watered down, which really gets into all the little cracks and crevices and adds a lot of depth to everything. Kind of like antiquing with leather. Then she just went to town hot gluing on a whole bunch of little buttons, adding little feet in those corner guards, and then finally stuffing the inside with all of this cotton batting, and then hot gluing this really pretty fabric that we had just to the inside, making this kind of pillowy design. Finally, to really sell the fact that this has been like lost somewhere for centuries, she busted out some of this Super 77 adhesive spray, spraying it on some decorative moss that she then stuck to various places all over the chest. I think this technique is called flocking, I'm pretty sure. But look at how cool this thing turned out. It looks old and like it's been buried forever. The wood, all the banding looks cool, and check that out. Like you open it up and there's treasures inside. I think this came out really cool. For starting with just like a cardboard box and some foam. Look at that, that's neat. And the fun thing with this project is it's really cheap. Like you don't have to add on the extras and whatever that we did. Just the foam and making it look like wood. Now you have a cool crate or something to hide stuff in. Or you can totally go the other way and like add a lot of metal accents to it and really make it look solid. But like that looks like a wooden box, right? That's pretty cool. Anyways, let me know what you think of this project. Sorry if some of the footage was a little washed out. We're still getting used to the new space and how the light works and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, exciting times ahead. Now, the last video that I made was actually a short while I was traveling that was announcing that the Brandywine Festival is coming to the UK. If you don't know about the Brandywine Festival, it is the first official LARP by Middle-earth where you get to play as hobbits in the Shire, and it's amazing. I did it in Kentucky last year. It's going to be in Kentucky again this year, but it's also in the UK. And as I announced in that short, I can give away 1 ticket. A bunch of you left #Hobbit in that video for me to randomly select a winner, and that is now. So congratulations, Brian Kendallworth 9065. Brian Kendallworth 9065, make sure you reach out to us so that you can claim your ticket. Now, some of you are watching and you feel bad because you didn't get the ticket. No worries, tickets have actually gone on sale officially. Just use our link down in the description below to get yours. All right, that's it for me. We got a billion things to do around here, so I'm gonna get right to that. In the meantime, though, keep leveling up, you. You've made it to the end screen. YouTube loves it when you do that, and it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Another fantastic way to support this channel is by joining these people's noble ranks. These are our Patreon members, and we can't do any of this without them. Huge shout out to our newest high-tier Patreon members, Thomas Rocap, Mr. J, Toasty Sushi, Dig Dug Dog, and Tiny Owl. And a giant shout out to our Grand Master patron, Froggy. Seriously, it is super scary moving into a new space, and only with your help are we able to make this happen, and it's awesome. The growing is fantastic, but again, it is scary. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your support. We really can't do any of this without you, so thank you. Well, thank you so much. All right, with that, I gotta get going. We've got just a billion boxes to figure out what to do with. A lot more cardboard projects in the future, I guess.